It began as nothing more than a passing curiosity. A few townsfolk noticed a young black girl lingering at the laundromat late at night, sitting in the farthest corner, where the flickering fluorescent light barely reached. She wasn't folding clothes. She wasn't waiting for a machine to finish, and she never carried a laundry basket. She just sat there, still and quiet, as though she was waiting for something, or someone, that never seemed to arrive. At first, the locals brushed it off. After all, small towns had their fair share of odd characters, and the laundromat stayed open 24 hours. But what unsettled people was the consistency of her visits. Night after night, no matter the weather, she was always there. Rain dripped through her hair some nights, and on colder evenings she wrapped herself in a thin, oversized hoodie, but she never missed a night. The sight of her, illuminated under the cold hum of the buzzing lights, became an eerie fixture of the town. Some began to take notice of her strange patterns. The laundromat's owner, Mr. Harris, swore she never touched a single machine. "She just sits," he whispered to a neighbor. "Doesn't wash, doesn't dry, doesn't even use the change machine. Just sits." Customers complained that she made them uneasy, but when asked to describe why, nobody could give a clear answer. It wasn't that she was threatening or loud. It was her silence. The way her eyes seemed fixed on nothing, yet sharp enough to make anyone glance away if they accidentally met her gaze. The rumors grew darker with each passing week. Some parents told their children she was a ghost, haunting the laundromat after hours. Others muttered she might be part of a gang, using the location as some kind of signal post. A few even claimed she had been seen talking to herself, though no one could ever agree on what she said. It didn't matter if the stories were true or not. The mystery of the girl was now a living, breathing part of the town's nighttime lore. And still, the girl came back every night, always alone. The hum of washing machines filled the room, but she never moved, never reacted, never explained. The longer she stayed, the more the town's unease grew, until whispers turned into phone calls. To the police, to the sheriff, to anyone who might finally uncover why a child chose to spend every night in a place most people hurried through as fast as they could. It didn't take long before the laundromat girl became the subject of late-night gossip. Small towns thrived on whispers, and hers spread like wildfire. At the diner, waitresses lowered their voices when they spoke of her, saying she looked too young to be wandering alone at such hours. At the gas station, men leaning against their trucks speculated whether she was homeless, abandoned, or maybe even part of something far more sinister. The more people talked, the less anyone seemed to know the truth. Some swore they had seen her carrying a different backpack each night, as though she rotated them for reasons no one understood. Others insisted she never blinked when she sat in her corner, staring at the spinning machines as if she was hypnotized by the motion. Teenagers dared each other to walk into the laundromat and sit near her, but most backed out the second they felt her eyes follow them. It wasn't just her presence. It was the way she unsettled people without speaking a single word. Parents, uneasy with the rumors, began warning their children to stay away from the laundromat after dark. "She's not like us," they said. "Something's wrong with that girl." Stories began to shift from pity to fear. What had started as concern for a possibly lost or runaway child slowly twisted into urban legend. Some even joked that she might not be real at all, but a shadow of someone who once lived in the town. A ghost lingering where nobody wanted to stay. The laundromat owner grew increasingly nervous. He didn't want to scare away customers, yet he didn't have the heart, or the nerve, to ask the girl to leave. Every time he considered approaching her, something about her posture stopped him cold. It was as though she was bracing herself, clutching her backpack like it was the only thing tethering her to the world. "It's not normal," he muttered one night, locking up his register. "No kid should be there like that, every night." Eventually, the whispers turned into calls to the sheriff's office. People wanted answers. Was she in trouble? Was she dangerous? Or was she simply a lost child no one had claimed? Each story grew darker than the last, and with every passing night, the mystery deepened. By then, the girl was no longer just a lonely figure in a laundromat. She had become an unsolved riddle that the entire town couldn't stop talking about. Sheriff Daniels had been in law enforcement long enough to know when a town's unease was more than just gossip. At first, he dismissed the calls about the laundromat girl as small town exaggeration, but the sheer number of reports piling up on his desk forced him to take notice. Too many people were describing the same thing: a child, always at the same spot, never speaking, never leaving until the sun threatened to rise. Something about the consistency of it gnawed at him. One humid evening, Daniels decided to check for himself. He parked his cruiser down the street, turned off the lights, and walked quietly toward the laundromat. From outside, He could already see her through the glass window, sitting cross-legged in the corner, the glow of the humming machines casting faint shadows across her face. She looked so small against the rows of steel washers and dryers, as though the building itself was swallowing her whole. As Daniels pushed open the squeaky door, the girl didn't flinch. The bell above the entrance rang, but she didn't turn her head. Instead, her gaze stayed fixed on a dryer, its circular glass window spinning endlessly. The sheriff took a slow step forward, his boots heavy on the tiled floor. The machines rumbled and clanked, but she remained completely still, clutching her backpack tightly to her chest, as if it contained something far more valuable than clothes. Daniels studied her in silence, his instincts pulling him in two directions. On one hand, she appeared fragile, frightened, and very much in need of help. On the other, there was something unsettling about her composure. Children who were lost or scared usually cried, wandered, or begged for food. This girl did none of that. She acted as if she was waiting for something that only she understood. That night, Daniels didn't approach her directly. He stayed for nearly an hour, leaning against a washing machine, watching her out of the corner of his eye. She never moved except to occasionally tighten her grip on the backpack. When he finally left, he knew one thing for certain: this wasn't just a case of a runaway or a troubled child. Something deeper was happening here, and whatever it was, it demanded his attention. Over the next 3 nights, Sheriff Daniels made it his personal mission to track the girl's movements. He arrived at the laundromat at different hours, hoping to catch her coming or going. Yet no matter what time he entered, midnight, 1 a.m., even closer to dawn, she was always already there, sitting in the same corner with her backpack clutched to her chest. He never once saw her walk in, and he never saw her leave. It was as if she simply appeared when the night settled in, and vanished before the sun rose. Daniels began jotting notes into his worn leather notebook. Each night he recorded the same details: same seat, same posture, same silent stare fixed either on the dryers or on the cracked tile floor. He noted the time she arrived, though he could never pin it down. Locals swore they saw her walk through the doors, just as darkness fell, but by the time the sheriff checked the cameras outside, there was no footage of her entering at all. The girl seemed to slip through the cracks like a shadow. The more Daniels watched, the more he noticed the peculiar stillness of her behavior. Hours would pass, and she would barely shift her weight. Children didn't sit that still, especially not ones who had nowhere else to go. The laundromat's fluorescent lights flickered occasionally, buzzing overhead, and in those moments of dimness, Daniels swore she seemed even smaller, like a ghostly figure blending into the shadows. The only movement came from her hands as they gripped her backpack, knuckles turning white whenever someone passed too close. Word of the sheriff's watch only fueled the town's obsession. Customers who had once been unnerved now returned, just to sneak glances at the girl. Some claimed she looked different each night, older one evening, younger the next. Others said her clothes never changed, not once, even though weeks had passed. The stories blurred fact with rumor, but the sheriff's notebook told him one undeniable truth: her presence was not random. It was deliberate. She wanted to be there. By the 3rd night, Daniels couldn't shake the feeling that the laundromat itself was part of her secret. Why this place? Why always at the same hour? He tried to imagine her wandering in the dark streets, choosing a building for shelter, but none of it added up. There was something about the laundromat, something she was waiting for, or hiding from, that made her return night after night. And Daniels, with every passing hour of silent observation, knew he was being drawn into a mystery that was far larger than he had ever anticipated. On the 4th night, Sheriff Daniels finally decided that watching from a distance was no longer enough. He couldn't stand the unanswered questions piling up in his mind, nor the unease building in his gut. As he stepped into the laundromat, the air felt unusually heavy, thick with the hum of machines and the faint smell of detergent. The girl was there, exactly where she always sat, clutching her backpack like a lifeline. Her small frame looked fragile, but the way she held herself suggested a strength born from something darker. He walked slowly, making sure his boots tapped gently against the tile so she wouldn't be startled. But the truth was, she didn't even look up. It was as though she had been expecting him all along. Daniel stopped a few feet away and cleared his throat. "Are you okay, sweetheart?" he asked softly, his voice carrying both authority and concern. Still, she didn't respond. The silence of the laundromat grew heavier, broken only by the mechanical clatter of a dryer door slamming shut on the other side of the room. Daniels tried again, this time crouching slightly to her level. "Do you have somewhere to go? Someone waiting for you?" The girl's lips trembled as though she wanted to speak, but instead, she pressed her backpack tighter against her chest. Her knuckles were pale, her eyes glassy. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, she whispered, so softly he almost didn't hear it, "I can't go home." The word sent a chill crawling up his spine. Her answer only deepened the mystery. Why couldn't she go home? Was she running away from someone? From something? Daniel studied her closely, noticing now that her shoes were scuffed nearly to the sole, her clothes worn thin at the elbows. She didn't look like she had eaten in days. Still, there was no desperation in her expression, only a haunting resolve, as though she had accepted her fate long before the sheriff had stepped into her world. Unsure of what to do next, Daniel sat down on a nearby bench, keeping his eyes on her. "I'm not here to hurt you," he said gently. "But I need to understand." The girl glanced at him for the first time, her dark eyes full of a fear far too heavy for someone her age. It was the kind of fear that came from secrets. Secrets no child should ever have to carry. And though Daniels didn't know it yet, her quiet words that night would be the thread that unraveled a story far more heartbreaking than anything he could have imagined. The girl's whisper echoed in Daniel's mind long after he left the laundromat. "I can't go home." Those 4 words gnawed at him like a splinter lodged deep beneath the skin. He couldn't shake the image of her clutching that battered backpack with such desperate force, as though it was the only thing tethering her to this world. Finally, on the 5th night, he decided he needed to know what she was hiding inside. Whatever truth she carried in that bag might explain why she returned here, night after night, with no place else to go. Approaching her cautiously, Daniel sat down across from her. His voice was calm, careful. "Can I see what's in your bag?" At first, she recoiled, hugging it tighter as her lips pressed into a thin, stubborn line. For a long, tense moment, Daniels thought she would refuse. But then, slowly, almost reluctantly, she loosened her grip. With trembling fingers, she slid the zipper open, and the contents spilled out onto the cracked tile floor. Inside were crumpled photographs, faded with time. Daniels picked one up gently. It showed a smiling family, a man, a woman, and a young girl standing between them. The girl in the photo was unmistakably her, though younger, her hair styled differently, her smile unbroken by the weight of fear. Beneath the photos lay something far heavier, a folded, weather-worn police report. His heart sank as he unfolded it. At the top in bold letters, "Message Kyled Report." The details made his blood run cold. The report was 3 years old, filed in a neighboring county. The girl had disappeared suddenly from her home, and though countless searches had been conducted, she had never been found. Daniel's throat tightened as he glanced from the report to the fragile figure sitting across from him. She wasn't just some runaway haunting the laundromat. She was a child who had vanished from the world without a trace. And yet, here she was, hiding in plain sight. But what shook Daniels the most wasn't just the report or the photos. It was the note tucked between them, written in uneven handwriting, clearly hers. "Don't let them find me." The sheriff froze, his hand trembling as he read the words over and over. Whoever she was running from wasn't just a figure from her past. It was something still out there, something she feared would drag her back, if anyone knew the truth. And in that moment, Daniels realized he was no longer just dealing with a missing child. He was dealing with a secret that someone, somewhere, desperately wanted to keep buried. Sheriff Daniels sat frozen in the laundromat, the faded photographs trembling in his hands. His chest tightened as he studied the smiling man in the picture. The face was all too familiar. It wasn't just some stranger's child sitting in front of him. The girl was the daughter of Michael Turner, his closest friend from years past, a man he had once sworn to protect like a brother. Michael had died tragically in a car accident, not long after his daughter vanished, and Daniels had carried the guilt of never finding her ever since. The realization hit him like a blow to the chest. All those sleepless nights he had spent wondering what happened, all the dead ends in the search. She had been alive this whole time, hiding in plain sight just a few towns away. His eyes blurred as he blinked hard, trying to steady himself. But no matter how hard he fought it, the tears came anyway. They welled up and slipped down his weathered face, staining the edges of the police report in his trembling grip. The girl watched him carefully, her expression unreadable. For the first time, she tilted her head, as if sensing his pain even though she hadn't yet spoken another word. Daniels wanted to reach for her, to tell her she was safe now, but something in her eyes stopped him. It wasn't relief he saw there. It was fear. Fear that the very truth he had uncovered would somehow ruin everything she had fought to survive. Her silence told him more than words ever could. Daniel's heart ached with a conflict he had never known before. The lawman in him screamed that he needed to report her discovery, to reunite her with the system that had been searching for her for years. But the friend, the grieving man who owed her father a promise, hesitated. He couldn't ignore the handwritten note he had found. "Don't let them find me." Every instinct told him this wasn't a simple case of a runaway child. It was something darker, something that might destroy her if he wasn't careful. Sitting there on the cold, humming floor of the laundromat, Daniels pressed his hands over his face, the tears falling freely now. The weight of his discovery was crushing, almost unbearable. He had finally found her, the girl he thought was lost forever, but instead of triumph or closure, all he felt was dread, because deep down, he knew, this was only the beginning of a truth far more dangerous than anyone in the town could have imagined. Sheriff Daniels wiped his tears, his hands trembling as he looked at the girl who had silently carried a burden no child should ever bear. In that moment, he made a vow, not as a sheriff, but as a man who owed her father his life, that he would protect her at all costs. Whatever horrors she had endured, whatever shadows she was hiding from, they would no longer haunt her alone. The laundromat that once echoed with whispers and fear, now held a different weight, the weight of truth, heartbreak, and a fragile hope. Daniels knew the road ahead would not be easy. Dark secrets had a way of clawing their way back into the light. But he also knew one thing for certain, he would never let her disappear again. And as dawn broke through the dusty windows, washing the laundromat in pale gold light, the girl's eyes finally softened. For the first time, she wasn't just a mysterious figure haunting the night. She was a child found, a soul rescued, and a living reminder that sometimes the scariest stories hide in plain sight, waiting for someone brave enough to uncover them.
If you liked this video, don't forget to hit that like button, share it with your friends, and drop your thoughts in the comments below. Most importantly, subscribe and hit the bell icon so the next secret finds you first.